You know, Charles, more than 9 years ago when we started these shows, you used to always want to select music, and I do miss that. I feel like we should have some dramatic 70s music about a train being hijacked. How are you tonight, Charles?
I'm doing well, Jason. Thanks for asking. It's bright and early here in the beginning of a week. We do not celebrate Martin Luther King Day in Malaysia yet, so it's a normal day. But I
Are
think
you anticipating that celebration in the future?
uh, Ixnay. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I think the poster is magnificent, and again, the hundreds of people who made it happen in the art department, of course, get a huge share of the profits and the
Right.
profit participation units in Crowdsource the Truth. But it's actually we were, as we normally do before a show, contemplating various topics, and the subject of this lawsuit by Musk against Sam Altman, and I'm not actually sure who the defendants are in the lawsuit, but is a very interesting one because it's a textbook case to me of a bunch of lawyers and investment bankers seeing, in this case, it's a multi-trillion-dollar profit opportunity, and then failing to appreciate how public charities are supposed to operate. And I'm quite certain what's happened here, without even seeing the supporting documents, is that powerful law firms and investment banks were read into what Musk and Altman and others wanted to try to accomplish with this OpenAI. And the money people in the room looked at this and said, this is a way to make, for us to make tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of fees
Yeah.
off this. And so, whatever they need by way of legal architecture and words and all this kind of stuff, we're going to just put together for them. And what we'll do is we'll go down to, using our top contacts in DC, is we'll make an argument, this is my supposition, that the United States needs to win the battle for, what is it called, AGI?
Right. Artificial General Intelligence.
That the United States, it's a national security priority for the United States to get there first and reap whatever benefits can be reaped and guard against whatever dangers must be obstructed. So we got to make this happen. And they put some smart lawyers on this who came up with all these fancy documents. But what I was always told, and it's been a long time since I've worked, let alone worked on Wall Street, but you always have to look at substance over form. You can get wordsmiths who get perfect scores on LSATs and English achievement tests and all that kind of stuff to argue that round is square. And they'll do it convincingly, and they'll get all kinds of experts to say that they've done it properly. But there's several flaws in the way I think they've done this. So what they started with is public charity. And I think you found the documents, Jason, in California. It's started out as, I think, a Delaware company operating in Delaware, nonprofit operating in California. But in the California Registry of Charitable Trusts, I think you found the legacy founding documents, which include the Articles of Incorporation, include, I think, the Form 1023 and the determination letter. And basically, this started as a public charity that Elon Musk contributed, I think, the bulk of the money to. Isn't that right, Jason?
Yeah. Here, I have them right here, actually.
Yeah.
I think this is what you're talking about. And by the way, I think Elon Musk put in kind of all the money. It was his idea.
Right.
My understanding, Charles, is that Elon Musk said basically he wants this, that AI is so important and potentially so dangerous that he wants to make an open source AI, meaning anybody at all can look at or modify the code like Linux operating system. So it's like public property, and to do research and to make this available to everybody so that it wasn't some kind of like closed system akin to what Microsoft has done with Windows, or what Apple has done with Mac OS or iOS, where you don't really know what goes on behind the black box. And the idea being that this was the only way to keep it safe so that everybody could,
Right.
essentially regulate it on their own. So it's Jonathan Levi and Elon Musk and Sam Altman and one other guy.
But Musk put in initially, was it 28 million bucks?
Something like that.
Right. And that should show up. I mean, we could go to the first 990 that was filed for this and see, what sort of revenue was declared. But initially, the idea was this was to be a public charity, meaning that public charities, the test that the IRS, when it decides to work on things, and in certain cases like the Clintons, they just say, fuck it, let them grift to their heart's content. But in this case, the public charity is supposed to be publicly supported. You can't have all the funds coming from one person. And by doing it, by claiming you're a public charity, if it's true that 100% of the money came from Musk would be able to deduct a bigger share of that donation than if this were a private corporation, and if it were indeed, a private foundation. And of course, if it were an actual for-profit company, he couldn't deduct anything. But so what does it show in the first 990 for revenue?
It says gross receipts 13 million.
Okay. And what is it? Is there a Schedule B?
Let me, yep. There it is.
And what is it? Does it show amounts, or is it restricted?
Restricted, it says.
Is there only one donor, or there's more than one donor?
There's just one thing that says restricted.
All right, so we don't really know how much was put up. Well, anyway, they start with a public charity, and the public. What are the in the first year? If you go to like page 6 or 7, the statement of expenses, how much? What are the total expenses in the first year, and how much of that is for salary?
Well, here we go. Elon Musk gets 0. Sam Altman gets 0. Chris Clark, 200 grand, it looks like.
But keep going further down the page to another page.
Ilya got 1.9 million.
Who?
One of the main developers, Ilya Sutskever, who has left and now is an enemy of Sam Altman and is creating, he left over concerns that they're not making it safe, that they're just doing stuff to make money. And Ilya Sutskever created something called super safe AI or something like that.
Okay, but there's the statement of expenses. I think you're on it right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are the total expenses in that year? It's going to be at the bottom.
Total functional expenses, 11.2 million.
All right. How much of that is compensation?
Well, management, other salaries and wages, 4 million. Compensation, 2.1 million. Other salaries and wages, 4.5 million.
All right. So 6 million is compensation out of, you said 11 million of expenses?
Yeah.
Which are
6.5 million.
6.5 out of 11. So it's, these are the people in the beginning the brains who are working on creating this OpenAI thing. So if in the first year you can pay 6.5 million to people to basically come up with the foundational discovery, or the first discovery, it's kind of tough to argue that in order to succeed over time, you need to attract the best minds that are out there by setting up a for-profit subsidiary beneath the foundation that in theory is controlled by the people who run the foundation. But what they did is that they came up with some clever conceits. The first one is they said, the mission between now and approaching, what's it called, AGI?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a moving target because they change the name of it and they change
Right.
what it even
Let's go,
means.
but let's break it down bit by bit, and I'll try to explain it, and you can correct me because I've only just read
Because
it
they
about
also
this.
sometimes refer to it as artificial superintelligence. So it's just
All right.
sort of this unknown thing.
All right. So there's a point. We can call it just the breaking point, or whatever point you want to call it. Where
Singularity, they call it.
all right, all right. So you reach that singularity between uh, now or then and reaching that point. Uh, Venture capital, Microsoft and other venture capital firms were brought in, and the conceit that the lawyers came up with, which I think is a ridiculous argument, is we're gonna say that the people who put money up, Microsoft and others, can only recoup 100 times their investment. We're going to cap their return at 100 times. And that the choice of 100 times is ridiculous on its face. I would love to see if there's any investment banking work that justify that 100 times. Because, as I went into it with Gemini before, going back and forth before I went on the show this morning, my time, I asked, Gemini, or I told Gemini, I said, listen to me, from 1960 forward, I'm going to stipulate that no venture capital fund ever returned 100 times on its investment. Am I wrong? They came back and said, of course you're not wrong. So to say that you're limiting, the return to these people who are going to profit off of what the foundation did in the beginning to only 100 times their investment, how noble are you for doing that, is preposterous on its face. And, if I don't know at what stage Musk kind of, lost interest in this or, stopped,
I think they pushed him
panic.
out.
Okay, if Musk had been in there, and I'm going to posit that he wasn't in there at the time they did this deal, he would have said, guys, this is ridiculous. You can't offer, the top venture capital firms in the world a chance to only make 100 times on their money. And with a straight face, go to the IRS and say, this is a charity. I mean, this is better returns than venture firms have ever made on anything in the history of modern venture capital. So you're not making a concession by doing this structure. And then the second thing they tried, of course, I'm sure Sam Altman is no doubt a noble person who could care less how much money he makes off this venture. I'm saying that, obviously he's not like that. To then say that in order to attract the best minds to this, we have to have profit participation units, which for employees, and to then end up in a structure where the foundation retains the economic value. It retains, 6% or 24% or some number like that of the economic value of its original discovery. I mean, this is not. You look at this, and yes, you can get Covington and Burling and all these great law firms to write letters, and Alan Dershowitz will weigh in, and Larry Tribe will weigh in, and all these people with great credentials can say that, yes, we figured a way around this bullshit. Public charity is not supposed to generate, quote, more than an insubstantial amount of private gain over its lifetime. Okay, you have the Microsoft team is getting something that might be worth 100 billion for putting up $1 billion or some small number. Musk is complaining that that in this lawsuit that somebody, either he or somebody, should get 135 billion back from this. I mean, this charity, in its books and records, has only raised, I think, less than $1 billion. So how could something that received donations of less than $1 billion through operating a public charity have an asset that might be worth today $135 billion? I mean, it's just, on the face of it, I'm all in for America having top venture capital firms and going out there and trying to do this project on a for-profit basis where taxpayers are not subsidizing the operation, and where the venture, if successful, will generate tons of money in the form of taxes on capital gains and taxes on this compensation of these people. That this should all be done in a for-profit structure. It's preposterous. And I don't care what the lawyers say, because this is such a big opportunity. I care what the statute and regulations and precedents say, but not what law firms who stand to make money off this, and bankers working with them who stand to make money off this. This is something where a principled person would have said, we're not doing this. Right? We're not doing it this way.
Charles, forgive my ignorance. I don't know much about any of this stuff, but when I do look at a document that's like $4,000,000, and then 686,000, it seems to stand out a little bit. What does this mean to us that the contributions, like why is this $4,433 in contributions and then 600,000 from investment income? I mean, not like this is any kind of consequential amount, even in view of 14 million. But what is going on here? Why is this so weird?
Again, I can't see it, Jason, so I can't comment in depth on it. But I think this is one of these things where the people running venture capital, people trying to make money off initial public offerings or trade sales of this, law firms thinking that there are all kinds of contracts and legal work going to be required for this around the world. It's going to be a money spinner for whatever law firm is counsel to the foundation and counsel to the for-profit entity. And this is a gigantic pot of money that should be captured in the 100% in the for-profit sphere, and not at all in a supposed public charity initially funded primarily by one person who currently is the richest man on earth. It's you look at this, and this is so badly off, but so high profile at this point, right? I mean, this is, you're talking about the for-profit subsidiary. Some are saying is worth at this point $500 billion or more. It was only created 10 years ago. And you have this, and you have Grok, and you have Gemini, and you have others around the world, no doubt, all trying to do this. Again, I think doing this, pursuing profit is one thing. But then think as well, I don't know what the singularity actually will mean in the end. But I'm seeing now, having worked with you and prior to working with you on exposing GE, I'm seeing the way in which expert opinions have been debased by, quote, advancements in technology, right? I mean, if you think about how we perceive what's going on, the principal sources of information in the past were curated. You had the New York Times, the Washington Post, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, talking about business and political issues. You had various giants. You had people who got college degrees and wrote books and this and that. And their expert opinions they're trash. They're on the trash heap of history at this point, right? I mean, all these people who said, most recently, Trump's tariff regime is a disaster. It's going to break the American economy. We're going to be, back in the horse and buggy whip because of this. They were proven absolutely wrong. All these people who care about what the Europeans have to say about anything. I mean, the European leadership today is standing in front of the world with pants and skirts down and dirty underwear. I mean, they just what Europe has to say about the future of humanity is irrelevant. I mean, they can't manage their respective countries well. Yeah. And so you think about, you say on the one hand, people who are not going to do the type of work that you and I do to look at evidence, assess evidence, to figure out, is the evidence manufactured or is it natural or what is it, are now in a place where they can more easily be led by the nose. And what I'm seeing in both Grok and Gemini, which I use the most, and I think you see a lot of this too, Jason, is that the initial answers that come out can sound very convincing, but be absolutely incorrect.
Yeah, you can get in a lot of trouble with that.
Right. And so if that's where we are now, imagine if we reach this supposed singularity and all the Nina Jankowiczes of the world and people on the Disinformation Project can then say, listen, if it doesn't come out of AI or its equivalent, it's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
How, I mean, that's a very dangerous place to be. We don't want that. And, going back to the very beginning of our country, one of the reasons I think Thomas Jefferson, for all his flaws, was an absolute visionary is he appreciated that an engaged nation of people who were assessing anything that came out of the government to test its credibility and accuracy is a nation that thrives. A nation, on the other hand, that allows a censor, a powerful government censor, to say, stop disagreeing with this government policy on masks. You are wrong and we, the government, are right. You don't want that. And you don't want that in a country, and you certainly don't want a global system that could be captured, let's say, by China, the Chinese Communist Party, dictating truth, what is truth and what is falsehood. You don't want that.
Mm.
So,
now, Charles, let me interject for a moment, because we have only about 3 minutes until we venture over to the First Amendment Forum, where people will be able to join us. We can go more in depth onto some of the OpenAI documents, talk about the foundation, how they spun off this for-profit thing and all that, even go into the lawsuit. And people are going to be able to join us for that on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Also, people who follow me on X at JG_CSTT will get access to that sponsor exclusive content. But before we go there, I want to read to you, if I may, this definition of the AI singularity that my official intelligence tells me you're going to love. Because I know you like it when things happen in unpredictable and profound ways, but it says the AI singularity is a hypothetical future point where artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, triggering runaway technological growth and unpredictable, profound changes to civilization through rapid, successive self-improvement, sometimes known as an intelligence explosion. You look excited about this, Charles.
Over to you. That's ridiculous.
But profound and unpredictable.
Stay off the ketamine. I mean, this is just interesting, but come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, Charles,
if you want to smoke this opium, pay your taxes on it. Don't set up a foundation. And I'm not saying they're doing this, but a foundation to advance educational discoveries by smoking dope. I mean, this is, you want to do this, do it in a for-profit world.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what I think might be fun to do for our viewers in the First Amendment Forum is that we can actually get into asking artificial intelligence some questions about this lawsuit, load the documents in there, interact with it a bit, and that's always a fun way to do it. So we're going to be back in just about 5 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Join us on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. It'll be up on X. Right after we're done, you could send a DM to Elon Musk and ask him, once he gets the 134 billion, if he'll update X to allow live streaming to subscribers. Can't do that yet. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be right back.